Today, we're going to look at why the narrow path is so important for us to understand. It is no secret that following Christ is not always easy. Even though Jesus said that he was the way, the truth, and the life, he also warned his disciples that they would have tribulation in this world. No one should expect a life of ease if they are truly following Jesus. In fact, those who follow Jesus will be persecuted. But there is a path that leads to eternal life, and it is not a broad and easy path. This is what Jesus taught in Matthew 7:13-14. Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many there are who go in there. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and few there are who find it. Now this passage has caused some controversy among Christians, because people do not agree on how to interpret these words. Some think that this passage refers only to salvation, while others believe that it refers to both salvation and heaven. However, this passage does not say anything about getting into heaven. It only talks about entering through a narrow gate. We know that there is a gate into God's presence, but the Bible nowhere says that there is a gate into heaven. So we can conclude that when Jesus said, "Enter through the narrow gate," he was referring to salvation. The word salvation means to be saved or delivered from something. In this case, it means to be saved from sin and its consequences. Jesus is saying that there is a way that leads to salvation, but it is a narrow way. In order to find salvation, you must enter through the narrow gate. And the question is, what is the narrow gate? What does Jesus mean when he says that there is a narrow gate that leads to life? And what is the other gate that leads to destruction? The word gate in the Bible often represents an entrance or a way. So the two gates that Jesus talked about represent two different ways of living. The broad way is the easy and popular way of living. It is the way that most people in the world live. They live for themselves and their own pleasure. They do not think about God or what he wants from them. The narrow way is the difficult and unpopular way of living. It is the way that Jesus wants his followers to live. It is the way of holiness and obedience to God. Those who choose the narrow way may suffer persecution and hardship, but they will find true life and salvation. So why does Jesus call it a narrow gate? Jesus calls it a narrow gate because it is the only way to true life. He wants people to understand that there is only one way to get to him, and that way is through faith in him. It is not enough to just believe that Jesus is the Christ. You must also put your trust in him and have faith in him. This is what Jesus meant when he said that the gate is narrow. Now let's look at why few people find this gate. There are many reasons why people do not find the narrow gate. One reason is that they are not willing to leave the broad way. They like the things of this world too much, and they are not willing to give them up. Another reason is that they are not willing to follow Jesus. They want to follow their own desires and do what they want to do. The last reason is that they do not believe that Jesus is the only way to the Father. They think that they can go to God in their own way. All of these reasons are wrong. Jesus is the only way to God, and there is no other way. If you want to find salvation, you must enter through the narrow gate. I hope that you have been blessed by this message. If so, please share it with your friends and family. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.